Hi, everyone. My name is Alan Wong, and I'm with the Contra Costa County Employment and Human Services Department. Today, I'll be your moderator for a forum of 7 candidates running for 3 at-large positions to serve on the Oakley City Council. Today's forum is sponsored by the Contra Costa County Election Division, CCTV, the League of Women Voters of Diablo Valley, and West Contra Costa County. And we're holding this roundtable via Zoom and taping it in the CCTV studios. I also want to mention that many of the candidates' names, as they appear on your screen, will also have their campaign email address. So if you'd like to contact them, the candidates, you may do that as well. The candidates running for office are Anissa Williams, Kevin Romick, Claire Alora, Oleksiy Chuko, Conan Motes, and George Fuller. And we'll begin the forum by asking questions for each person to answer. And while the time is not monitored, I'd like all the candidates to be mindful of their fellow candidates and answer those questions so we can give everybody a chance to answer and tell the voters their thoughts and their platform. So let's begin. Let's start off with Anissa Williams. Anissa, how would you apply your work experience and your background to your job as a council member if elected?
Oh, great. That's a really good question. I'm self-employed now, but before that, I was executive for years and years and years. My most recent position being a VP of a startup restaurant chain. So, one of the things I learned how to deal with is working with so many different personalities and trying to get to a place where everybody's needs are met and get us all to where we all agree. My position was unique in that I had to work directly with the field. So, there were 5,000 international employees who I had to also keep happy while working with my executive team. So I learned I feel very well how to communicate the needs of the field versus what executives wanted and what profits we needed to develop. So I feel like I'm really well versed in making sure that the needs of the people are communicated to the people who are making those decisions.
Thank you very much, Anissa. Kevin Romick, how would you apply your background and your work experience to the job of city council member if elected?
I'm an IT manager in charge of mainframe hardware and system software and manage the help desk. As someone highly involved in technology and the way the world is headed and where we're headed as far as moving forward in this world, it is all technology driven and puts me in a definite advantage in that respect. And in managing a help desk, I get to work with users with all sorts of interesting questions and discussions regarding what is going on with their own particular systems. And it gives you an opportunity to deal with those who aren't quite as adept at computers as others are. So it gives me the ability to having to deal with those who are rather nascent in the field and have no other standing other than I know I sit in front of my computer and turn it on, and then things happen. And then I also have the more sophisticated users on the other end, and so I have a well-rounded view of dealing with the public who at times may be incredibly frustrated with what's going on at their system, and at other times want to know why we aren't going fast enough. And so I should be able to apply all those experiences as moving forward.
Thank you, Kevin Romick. Claire Alora, how would you apply your work experience and your background to the job of city council member if elected?
Well, I have a background in marketing and logistics. And then most recently, my job has been for the past few years full-time stay-at-home mom, which I like to also call domestic engineer, because it involves so many things. In addition to that, I'm a community volunteer. So I've been using all of the information that I got from my marketing and logistics background to organize and to make sure that things happen in the series that they're supposed to happen, that the foundation is laid before you can bring on other things, and that the infrastructure is there so that you can build upon it. And then in addition to that, with the community volunteer portion of it, I've worked with so many groups of people already in our city and our community. So the network of people that I know and that I've worked with has helped tremendously to know what the needs are for certain groups of people in certain communities and neighborhoods too.
Thank you, Clara Laura. Alexei Chuko, what would be, how would you apply your work experience and background to the job of city council member?
Yeah, my background, I'm coming from IT and tech support, which, is always about solving challenging problems, and these days we're all relying on this new world of IT, this digital divide that a lot of us are facing. But for the last 6 years, I was actually working as a director of operations for Asaya Shriners, which is a small nonprofit. So I do understand tight budgets. In the city of Oakley, we do have a very tight budget, and it's all about figuring out our priorities and figuring out how we can be more efficient, right? So I'm also experiencing a lot of opportunities to bring people together, working with volunteers, and I think it would be great to foster this unifying spirit in a very divided country, as you know, at the moment we all are living in.
Thank you, Alexei Chuko. Conan Motes, how would you apply your work experience and background to the job of city council member if elected?
Well, I am a teacher by trade, and that job, that career for me is a calling in life. I feel very devoted to what I do, and I interact with a number of people daily who have many different wants and needs. And so it's a goal of mine to teach to all of my students. And so the communication piece, I think, is really important there. And of course, students are not the only stakeholder in education. So parents, administrators, the community at large is very much in my mind when I'm doing my job. So as a teacher, I feel that the way that I conduct my classroom will be a lot like the way that I do business in local government. I teach economics, I teach US government, so I'm very familiar with our economic system, and I'm very familiar with our political system, or how it's supposed to work anyway. And that's another thing that I think teaching helps, is that there's a lot of theory, but there's also practice. So where the rubber meets the road is really important in what I do. I'm also a playwright and a producer of theater, and I feel like all the world's a stage, including the city hall. So I think that my theater background as well will serve me well in Oakley City Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Conan Motes. George Fuller, how would you apply your work experience and background to the job of city council member?
I have spent my adult life as a member of the public sector that started 5 decades ago, serving in the United States Marine Corps during the Vietnam War era. I worked in the general's headquarters there, and of course we were experiencing some trying times, shall we say, during that time. Left there and joined the Los Angeles Police Department and had a very good time. Really enjoyed the job. But in working that, I worked in South Central LA, and throughout that area, I served some time in narcotics, and I also worked with the assistant chief, which gave me a lot of administrative thoughts after Rodney King, the year following Rodney King. I was deployed to the 3 housing projects, Nicholson Gardens, Imperial Course, and Jordan Downs. I was assigned to operate foot beats my officers in there from 6 p.m. to 2 a.m. I was a sergeant. And there it was understanding integrity, understanding grit, understanding communication with the community, how to maintain the safety of everyone and keep everyone deployed. And that brought a lot. I went on to teaching. I special education teacher, general education teacher, and left. My son died during 7 years ago, and he died of his disability. And I thought, no, we need to do something about this. My passion has always been disability in my life, so I'm now working on my doctorate at the University of San Francisco in special education, and I'm now the CEO of my own nonprofit. But I think most of all, what my past experience is I served 12 years on the West Community Unified School District, 1998 to 2010. And during that time, went through some very difficult budget difficulties, very tough times. We had to lay off teachers, we had to organize teaching, and at that time it became grit again. So I can take that public experience where we were working with a budget of $70 million, 1,000 employees, and 10,000 students, and keep that functional, keep that going. I can bring that experience to the city council, the city of Oakley. When it comes to people who describe me, my rating reports, go through things, the words that keep coming up: leader, innovative, grit, integrity, understanding, empathetic. Those are the words that I've been used to describe me. And I believe I can carry that on to the benefit of the city of Oakley on the city council. Thank you.
Thank you, George Fuller. As you can see, a lot of experience to vote for in our forum and our candidates today. Anissa Williams, what would your top priority be if elected to the City Council of Oakley?
Yeah, great. I have a few things that I'm focused on. The first is, and we've had this on the ballot before, but as a mom of young kids, I really, really believe that we deserve a true Oakley Library and Education Center. Right now, we share with Freedom High School. It's not the most conducive learning center for our kids, for the Freedom students, and for potential college students. So, that's my one priority. My second one is we really need to bring good small businesses to Oakley. I want my property values to go up, and I want the things that we're able to do in Oakley to improve. Right now, 62% of our residents leave daily for both work and entertainment, and that's just not a sustainable way to when I'm going to get to my third priority, I'm going to talk about it's not a sustainable way to support our infrastructure, nor is it fair to our residents that they have to leave our city and spend their money elsewhere instead of in their own city. So I'd like to attract and retain small businesses, not just chain businesses, but actual Oakley resident businesses, which will provide jobs and also improve our just overall lifestyle. And my third thing is we definitely need to raise our revenue from both sales taxes and property taxes so that we can support our services such as fire and making sure that Oakley is competitive with other cities of our size. Right now, we're not at all. We're not recognizing our tax revenue. We're not recognizing our property tax revenue into support of those services. So I think by attracting better businesses and having our residents actually spend their money in the city that they live in, it's going to make a huge difference to the level of services that we have available. And it will get rid of some of this tension that we have because we can't support these things.
Thank you, Anissa Williams. Kevin Romick, how would you, if you could answer the same question?
The number one priority I have is jobs. We have a huge jobs housing imbalance, not only in Oakley, but in most of all of Contra Costa County. Oakley residents have some of the longest commutes in the Bay Area. Contra Costa has the largest percentage of its population to commute out of the county every day for work. We've made some progress lately with a October 7th ribbon cutting for the Amazon facility at the Contra Costa Logistics Center. But we need more jobs to help keep parents closer to their homes and their families. Second, I'd focus on our police department. We have just been recently ranked as the 16th safest city in the 16th safest city in the state. We already have an excellent police force, and maintaining that ranking should remain a top priority. We'll need to add officers as we move forward on our budget. Our internal infrastructure, the streets that we have, the streets make up nearly 80% of our public space. They serve as thoroughfares connecting our neighborhoods and our community. When we incorporated, we were largely a community with lots of two-lane dusty roads and no sidewalks. We've made great strides in the past 20 years in upgrading our road system, and we must continue to do so.
Thank you, Kevin Romick. Clara Laura, what would your top priority be?
Thank you, Alan. So my top priority, as I am an incumbent and have been on council for the past 4 years, has always been public safety. It means supporting our police department, and they do a great job already of keeping us safe, but also giving them the tools that they need and the training that they need to go forward, especially in today's environment, to make sure that they're working well with our community, and that our community is informed as to what our police department can provide for them. Another element of public safety is also supporting our fire district And though they are a separate district and they do have their own board, I do what I can as a council member to support them in passing CFDs and making sure that whatever revenue we can share with them goes to them and goes to those services. Because as we expand, for sure, they're going to need to cover more areas and more houses. And that's important to me to make sure that we do what we can to support what they're doing in terms of finding new revenue and new ways to be able to provide services for the city. But it was also as economic development. And as Mayor Rompick said before, we do have the new Amazon Center, but I also want to focus on supporting small businesses. And that's why one of the projects that we've brought is Makers Market, to have them be able to have a community presence as well as out of working from their homes.
Thank you, Ms. Laura. Alexei Chuko, your top priority if elected.
Okay, I actually do have three priorities, which is safety, efficiency of our city services, and of course, economic growth. If I would have to pick one, I'll have to stick with economic growth. We do have to support our small businesses who are suffering right now with a lot of restrictions that are still undergoing in our state. Small businesses are a foundation of Oakley, but we also need to start balancing this out with inviting more and more bigger industries into our town that will provide living wage jobs that people need so much. A lot of us are spending countless, endless hours in the commute every day. And let me tell you, it would be amazing to have these jobs available right here in our city where we can live, play, and actually work as well. But I would also like to touch on safety, because without safety, we would not have economic growth, we will not have anything. So we must support not only our police department, but also our firefighters. And I actually would like to say that I would like to see some more law enforcement. Actually, we have been having a lot of issues with fireworks popping out for the last 5 months all over the place. And it seems to be a little disrespectful considering the major fires that our state and the entire West Coast is going through right now. So we need to make sure that we live in a safe environment. And I will finish with efficiency. We do have to reevaluate how we provide our city services. We need to make it a little bit more user-friendly, if I may say so. Put a little bit of high tech there and just provide all the services in a very easy and accessible manner to all of our residents, young and elder.
Thank you, Mr. Chuko. Conan Moats, what would be your priority if elected?
Okay, thank you. I, like Alexei, think that growth is the number one priority. And it's really interesting listening to all my fellow candidates and how much common ground we have. I think that there's a lot of good ideas being put out that makes me very happy to hear. Growth, yes. We need jobs. We need tax revenue. But I really believe that we need to focus on how we grow. I've heard our fair city be compared to an adolescent, because 2 decades ago there was 2,000 people around. Now there's over 40,000, and I'm concerned at our rate of growth, and I'm concerned about protecting our natural wetlands. I think that if we grow in such a way without planning properly, there could be a great loss. So I think that we need to make sure that we keep our urban limit line. We make sure that we don't just develop for development's sake. I think that there's a lot of housing coming in, which we need. People need a place to live. We have a safe city. We have a place that's desirable for a number of people, but I think that some of the development is being done haphazardly. Likewise with businesses that are coming in. Yes, we want businesses, but what kind of businesses do we want to attract, and what will they do to the identity of our community? Many people like the small town feel of Oakley, as do I. And I worry that, yes, of course, having Amazon in is a great asset to our community, but I don't know how well that's been planned, and I don't know what's that going to make Oakley look like. And I feel that many people in our city have that anxiety as well. And we had a planning commission previously, and we do not now. So with my top priority is creating recreating a planning commission so that we can better plan for our city and have more voices involved in the direction our city takes. I have 3 small children. I want them to grow up in a city that is safe, that gives them opportunities for growth and success. I want my community to have jobs. I want to see local union work available to members of my community to ensure quality stuff, quality construction, quality building, people who are not just getting jobs, but have a living wage, have access to healthcare, have access to the things that we all need. So definitely growth would be my number one answer. And there's a number of things tied into that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moats. George Fuller, what would your top priority be?
Well, I do like the other candidates have issues to discuss and see those on fullerforoakley.net. But my number one priority for this community now is 24/7 childcare. The childcare industry in the United States, in California, in Contra County, in Oakley is decimated. But we're having parents going back to work who are going to need childcare, even if they're working at home. Working at home was a temporary fix, but now they're finding out people are going to be staying at home, but working with their kids is very difficult. A lot of parents work in shifts, so we need to make arrangements so children can be taken care of safely and secure while parents return to work and begin to rebuild their lives. This kind of community has the resilience to do so, but we need to be developing, putting our money into studies of childcare, not in trams going from downtown to park, but in the childcare. What can we do for the community? And that's my number one community striving for. We need to make sure that when parents go to work, they have a place for their kids, and Oakley can do that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, George Fuller. As you all know, COVID-19 has devastated our economies, both large and small. Anissa Williams, your thoughts on this quarantine and how would you stimulate the local economy during this pandemic?
Yeah, great. So I am a product of a COVID layoff. So, this is a little bit personal, but what it did do was it inspired me to start my own business, something that I've been planning for quite some time and had been developing on the side, but was never able to dedicate a lot of time or resources to. And, the thing, as I've been working on that, as I've been reaching out to people in similar situations, we've inspired each other to do sort of that same thing. So I think one of the things that we need to do is make it easier to have economic stimulus locally. So there's lots of ways to do it. I spoke earlier about how I want to work with small businesses and attract small businesses. We can mimic what other communities are doing. They do partner funded banks, and there's a whole bunch of things that they do to get access to capital easy. So for small business development, I think that would be something that we need to get behind in order to try and turn this around for our community. I have a bunch of different ways that we can do that. Fast tracking permits and making sure that small business owners in Oakley get priority for having permits put through and for spaces. As on the other side of it, I think we do need to become a city that strongly supports union. As we've said several times, a lot of us here, everybody has to commute out. I know many, many union members, and not one of them is able to work in their town. They all work in San Francisco, San Mateo, and it's just too difficult to do that. And what are we doing by not hiring skilled union laborers with priority to our Contra Costa residents is that we're bringing in people who potentially don't even spend any money in the city at all, and they're not benefiting our residents. So I think it's sort of a two-pronged approach. We've got to really dive in, focusing on how we can make economic stimulus possible for small business, as well as supporting labor unions and projects developed by them, and just working to get that growth correctly with those two sectors. And then we can knock out a big part of the people who are missing jobs in Oakley right now.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Kevin Romick, your thoughts on the quarantine and how you would help stimulate the local economy?
Well, the quarantine has been devastating to a lot of business, especially with retail and restaurant business, which is mostly Oakley small business. All 3 of my daughters have been impacted, have been laid off as part of this because they all work in education, retail, and restaurant business. So I'm aware of what is out there. already it is already a process within the city of Oakley that businesses that permitting processes for businesses within the city of Oakley already get a priority when it comes to processing their permit fees. And with a relatively small budget that we do have, there's not a lot of leeway that we can use to stimulate more activity out there, aside from working with individual owners as they come into the city and figuring out what it is they want, what it is they're looking to do, and how we can help them move forward with their process. But as long as the state and the county control the quarantine methods, it makes it difficult as a city to buck what's being placed above the constraints being placed on us by governments above us that have the authority and the power to do so. But we will work with every business owner that wants to come forward and come into the city and is looking to expand and move forward with their businesses. And we are very open to working with anyone who has a dream to move forward in this process.
Thank you, Mr. Romick. Clara, Laura, your thoughts on this quarantine, and how would you help stimulate the local economy during this pandemic?
Yes, it has affected so many of our small businesses. And prior to that, we were getting ready to launch this makers market, which would have allowed businesses to have a storefront as opposed to working out of their home. I think that as rules relax and people are able to get together in smaller groups and venture more into stores that are not essential, we might be able to bring that sooner rather than later and allow some of these home businesses that have been struggling to be able to have more of a presence. And then as far as it goes with bigger companies coming in the future, if we do get more projects in the area, it's a very good idea for us to look into contracting with union workers and for them to be able to bring and keep their money here in our community, as opposed to going out and having to work somewhere far from home, but for them to be able to work closer to home, to spend their money closer to home on their lunches, their dinners, and their shopping. So I think sort of keeping that bubble of workforce as close to home as possible would be able to help stimulate and bring up our economy.
Thank you, Ms. Alora. Alexei Chuko, your thoughts on the quarantine and how would you help stimulate the local economy?
Yeah, very devastating time for our, I guess, nationwide economy overall. But with all the doom and gloom, I mean, I think it's really important for all of us to stay almost stubbornly looking for opportunities, right? A lot of businesses they have to shut down their doors, businesses that were around for many, many decades, but it also gives a lot of new businesses some great ideas to provide services that are much needed, right? I think for our city in particular, because we do have so many mom and pop small businesses who might not have ability or they don't know how to take their business online, I think it would be great to have a proper economic development committee in our city that will actually contact those businesses and will give them the tools to be able to provide services that they were providing before, maybe online. Definitely would help to give a fast track for permits for new businesses, which we've already touched upon. But I would definitely look into helping our small businesses, like I said, that are foundation of our community, to give them even small things like help them maybe to create an e-commerce website, right, where they can sell their services, things like that.
Thank you, Mr. Chuko. Conan Moats, your thoughts on this quarantine and what you would do to stimulate the economy?
All right. I believe that any government's number one concern is the safety of its citizens and its residents. So when it comes to economic stimulus for Oakley, we have to consider above all the safety of the people of Oakley. And that has been an extreme challenge for all of us in local, county, state, and nationwide. Because when we shut down our government, when we shut down our schools, when we shut down business, it has a horrible economic impact. And so we have been scrambling, trying to figure out how to move forward. I believe the Mandarin word for crisis translates roughly to something like danger opportunity. And I think seeing this as an opportunity is really important. It's an opportunity for us to reevaluate our values, how we interact with each other as a community, how to be supportive of each other. And so we need to, I believe, not look to county, state, and federal government and say, hey, you are tying our hands by saying we have to do such and such before we open up, but rather form partnerships and build bridges in order to get the help that we need and provide the help to others. Now, I'm a teacher. Schools are a place of learning. They're also a place where children go while parents are at work. Opening up schools is super important to getting our economy going again. I believe that schools need to open up. They need to open up safely, but they definitely need to have that option in as soon as it is safe. Of course, safety is something that we need to be working with health, county, state, local health to make sure that it is safe. But I think that that is a top priority, is getting schools back open, getting kids in classroom either in a hybrid model where they're at school some days a week, or being in school full time as soon as it can be done so safely is key to getting our economy back on track. And ultimately, our economy doesn't mean anything if it's not for people. The economy, some people put the cart before the horse and say, oh, well, the economy, this and that. Well, no, it's the lives. The economy doesn't do any good if everybody's dead. So we need to focus on humanity, saving people before we're concerned about the economy. And I think if we do that, then it'll be a win-win for saving lives and improving our economy. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moats. George Fuller, your thoughts on this quarantine and how would you help stimulate the economy?
The quarantine, I get a little choked up because this is the time that America shows it's America. This is the time that American citizens come together, and we've done it before. World War II, Pearl Harbor was bombed. They never figured that they would get the Navy rebuilt. It was totally devastating. Yet this country came together, banded together, was flexible enough to put a Navy back into the Pacific Ocean within 18 months and landing Marines in Guadalcanal and working its way up north to regain the dignity of this country and its freedom. 9/11, 347 firefighters gave up their life. That's grit. Climbing the stairs to go there. We were confronted with a situation we've never seen, but when they continued to climb, 60 police officers went up there. 2,400 people died, over 2,400. But we have to keep in mind that there were probably 50,000 within those towers. And that means that 44,000 escaped because we put our mind to it. That's what we are in America. But what we have to recognize in this community is the world is not going to be the same. And I'm not hearing that. I've heard from the city government, oh, this will be over in May. Oh, this will be over in June. Oh, this will be over at the end of June. Oh, this will be in July. The city is not recognizing there's going to be a new normal. Mass transit is going to be around. We're going to build a train. We're going to build a 300-car parking lot in an area that could be used for a park because people are going to go there. People aren't riding mass transit. They're scared. And I don't blame them. They're scared. They don't want to go on a mass transit. So what can we do? We have to learn to abandon the old and prepare for the new. And that's what I would like to see. We have to listen to the people. We have to talk with them. We have to assess it. And we have to move forward in a new direction.
Thank you, Mr. Fuller. As you all know, the city of Oakley on the cusp of a lot of growth, a lot of needs in the future. Anissa Williams, your thoughts on the city's current budget and its fiscal status?
Yeah, sure. So it's no surprise to anybody on this. The budget is really, really tight. Looking through it, because one of the things that I had to do was find money when there was none to build new properties. So looking through the budget, there's definitely places where there's waste. And I think that we have ways that we can also improve it by getting different revenue streams put in there. So I think those are two of the things that we really need to focus on. Is we need to evaluate it and see where all the waste, all of the different places are that we can make those surgical cuts. But more importantly, I think if you look at what the plans are for the future of Oakley, I think that we need to be much more strict on where those different revenue streams are coming from. If you look at their plans for development, I want to know exactly how much each of those developers are putting into our services, what kind of breaks they got to come to Oakley, and what they're doing to make our city better. Because with a very tight budget, we have to push back a little bit and make sure that the people who want to build in Oakley are supporting our economy and making sure that that very small budget can have little boosts, little increases, and then we can find some residual streams through that. So I think those are the two things that we really need to focus on, is those surgical cuts and making sure that we're really holding people's feet to the fire and making sure that they're putting in their fair share for it if they're trying to build in Oakley.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Kevin Romick, your thoughts on the city's current budget and its financial status?
We have a current budget of about $21 million. It has been balanced and has reserves of over 20%. We are a lean and tight ship. There's no way to do it with such a small budget. By comparison, Brentwood's budget is about $55 million and Antioch's budget is about $73 million. We always have balanced our budget to maintain reserve even during the depths of the Great Recession. We've never laid anybody off because of that. Our council has been judicious with city resources and has been working to ensure that our long-term fiscal future is sustainable. We have continued to support a budget process as it uses reoccurring revenues for reoccurring expenditures and allocates one-time funds for one-time expenditures, reflecting our commitment to a conservative budgeting process, controlling costs, and using city revenues widely. As far as additional revenue sources, there are two main revenue sources that the city gets. They come from property taxes and sales taxes. And the property taxes come as part of Prop 13. And unfortunately, when Prop 13 was created in 1978, the way they allocated the dollars back then was for Oakley then was totally insufficient for what we need today. On average, Oakley gets 7 cents of every dollar out of the property tax. The majority goes to schools. In the city of Brentwood, they get 19 cents for every dollar towards their city. We pay more, the Oakley residents pay more to the county out of their property tax bill than they pay to the city for services. The other source is sales tax revenues. And unfortunately, with only small businesses that we've had, we get it's a disproportionately small share of, not share, but a small portion of our budget is around 11-12% of our income comes from sales revenues, sales tax revenues. In other communities, it averages between 30 and 50%. So attracting not only small businesses, but businesses can add to that pool will help us increase our budget. We have been aware of that since we started. As far as property tax allocations, there really is no other possible way to reallocate the dollars. And so we're stuck with about the 7% that the average is that we get from those revenues. And so we are aware that we have to keep a tight ship. We are aware that things are tight. And, there's a lot of programs that have been espoused and opportunities have been espoused by some of the other candidates in this forum. And I'm always curious, okay, how are you going to pay for that? How are you going to pay for creating these services with the small budget that you all say that we have? And we're going to cut. Where are you going to cut? Over 50% of our budget goes to police services. And that is a critical part of what everyone has stated here today, is maintaining safety in our community. So we are aware that we have a small budget. We have worked continually through the years to maintain it and continue to move forward in this process.
Thank you, Mr. Romick. Clara, Laura, your thoughts on the city's budget and its financial status?
The city's budget, to me, when I came on and started sort of researching running for council more than 4 years ago, was very surprising that is all we had and all that we worked for. And I thank Mayor Romick for sharing the sort of background on where we're at with our budget. We are very small in comparison with what we are working with, in comparison to our neighbors who've been established as cities far longer than the city of Oakley has. Mr. Moats brought up earlier that Oakley is in its adolescence, and that is very true in terms of our budget as well. So we don't have, to begin with, the property tax income that the other cities surrounding us have. And we are just beginning to be able to build on the other side of it with our businesses that are coming into town. So we really need to work that angle of it to bring more huge businesses in, living wage jobs, businesses that can provide the revenue that we need as a city to create more services, to create more amenities for our community as we go on. It is a long shot, but it is also something I've discussed with our leaders in this Senate and with our congressmen of how Prop 13 might be able to change or might be amended, or ways that we can work so that future laws would be able to fairly gear some of that property tax money back our way, or allow us into some other part of the money that's going to other services throughout the county to be shared back with the city in proportion to what other cities are obtaining from their allocation.
Thank you very much, Ms. Alora. Alexi Chuko, how do you see the city's budget and financial status?
Yeah, so if you look at, any budget, right? You can go two ways, right? You can cut expenses or you can find new revenue streams, right? So with City of Oakley, I do believe we have to choose sort of the middle balanced approach. We do have to review the budget. I'm not an incumbent. I'm coming in brand new to this, although I finished the Leadership Academy in Oakley. But I do think that we can still find ways to maybe make our expenses a little bit more efficient. But as Clara Laura just mentioned earlier, it's all about bringing new businesses. Big new revenue streams will help our city. Of course, with that comes the whole dilemma of, are we going to become too big and lose actually what we love about our community? So it's definitely all about balanced approach, but we do need to bring in new families. New families is the new sources of tax income for us, but as well as, big new businesses, right? That will probably be able to provide even more so for us. So with that said, look, it's a tight budget. You have to do a whole lot more with a very little. But I believe that we have a lot of opportunities with this growth that we're experiencing right now. We just need to be very mindful how we control it and how we balance it so it doesn't ruin this very special feeling of community that we have, but will also allow us to open the next chapter of Oakley.
Thank you, Mr. Chuko. Conan Moats, your thoughts on the city's budget and their current financial status?
Yeah, the budget is tight, and it's a huge challenge and one that it doesn't have any simple solutions. I believe that the goal of cutting, making surgical cuts or making big cuts across the budget, I think that austerity on the local level can be more problematic than beneficial. We need to be creative. We need to think outside the box. COVID-19 has presented a paradigm shift in terms of where people live. Real estate values in San Francisco have been insane for so long, which has caused demand for housing in Oakley to increase, which is great. We're getting commuters from the city to move out to Oakley. But ultimately, if we really want to increase our revenue, our tax revenue, our property tax revenue, our sales tax revenue, we need to make Oakley a destination, a place where people want to come and start a new business, be innovative, a place where people don't just want to buy a starter home and then move to Walnut Creek, a place where people want to buy a home and raise their family, set up roots, and be proud and love the community they live in. This means being smarter about development, building housing that is more desirable and does not fall into what looks like sprawl. The tax revenue issue and the expenditures is a huge challenge. And I give hats off to our council members now and historically for managing that challenge, because it's no easy feat. But I don't think that having this idea that we have to run a tight ship, leaner approach is always beneficial. And I'm not saying that we should tax and spend, because it's right. You can either raise taxes, raise revenue, or lower expenditures. And getting that bottom line in the right place is tough. But I think that we are in a unique opportunity right now, and we're going to see increased revenue with the Contra Costa County Logistics Center, which we just found out is going to be Amazon. That's going to be a great source of revenue. How that money gets spent really matters. And I think we can do so wisely and in a way that benefits us all.
Thank you very much, Mr. Most. George Fuller, your thoughts on the city's financial situation and its budget?
I appreciate the opportunity, and it is a passion that's very much a concern to me. Our budget does stay balanced. Yes, we have to go along with that to get there. But why is it balanced? $1.5 million loan. We now will have a building across from City Hall because that was forfeited. $600,000 plus mortgage to the city manager. Really, honestly, seriously, people are asking. A person who's earning $380,000 in benefits and salary from the city of Oakley, we need to supply the mortgage to his home. He can't carry it himself. We need that money over here. We need money that the Mary Roman Gasper is cut. It's going to be cut in the downtown projects. I'm watching children going to summer camp this summer in a pandemic time during a very tough economic period. They have to pay $200 a child. That means a family of three has to pay $600. The only ones that are going, they're serving the bourgeois. The proletariat, they don't have $600 to sit around and take for three kids. Just certain people. We need to take that money from downtown. Take that money, $75,000 loan here, $75,000 loan here, $100 million parking lot behind it, and move it into the police services. We have 0.77 officers and have for a long time in this city. 0.77 officers per 1,000. The Contra Costa average is 1.48 officers. Everybody talked about how much the city we're going to do the police. Up to now, the city council hasn't backed the police. It's cut it back. And they're not professionally funded. If you're not going to have a professionally funded police force, there's going to be difficulties down the line in this turmoil. So yes, the budget is balanced, but people don't need to sit around for 10, 15 years for Laurel to be paid from Main Street to Laurel to Mellowwood, so their cars don't fall apart. There's so many potholes. And the only reason they get paid is because there's an election. Oh, we'll get Laurel now paid. There's an election coming up. Where was the money the rest of the time? Oh yeah, that's right. We had to pay the developer over here for a loan or money, or bill, or something. So that's my thing. The budget is there, but we need to reallocate the budget into the central services for the city of Oakley, not for a favored few.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fuller. It sounds like everybody is in agreement that the city of Oakley is on the cusp of a lot of growth and that there's a need to generate more revenue to sustain that growth. I want to thank all of the candidates for answering these important questions. And now each of you will have 2 minutes to make your closing statements. We'll start with you, Mr. George Fuller.
Yes, thank you. First, please allow me to thank the League of Women Voters. This is their 100th anniversary, and I'm a feminist. If people know me, I am a feminist, and this is the 100th anniversary of the right of the women to vote. So I'm glad to be here. Thank you for the opportunity. With that, the residents of Oakley have developed a strong community. The members of the community are viable, have grit, have to be able to step forward after this post-pandemic into the new normal. But with it, they're asking for change. At the city council table, I would like to be a part of that change at the table. My first concern is 24/7 childcare. I said that before. Parents are going back to work. They need a place to go to work. We need to be supplying that. We need to give them the mechanism that they have a safe place for the children so they can get back up on their feet and become productive. The second one is tax dollars for essential services, police, roads, recreation, parks. Stop the money going into downtown on questionable projects. We need to expand that. Summer Lake needs an escape route, needs an evacuation route. Cypress isn't big enough. We need to take our money and develop there. That's my concern. Those are the two top priorities. So, but the only way this is going to happen, the only way the change is going to happen has been demonstrated over and over, is that we need 3 new members on the council table, 3 new members. And I would like to be a part of that new team.
Thank you, Mr. Fuller. Conan Moats, your final comments.
All right. I want to say thank you to you for moderating. I want to say thank you to the League of Women Voters. Like George, valuing the 19th Amendment, which has just had its 100th anniversary, and seeing the contribution that women have made to our society, time immemorial, but even more so since given or fought for enfranchisement in 1920, 100 years ago. That's a big deal, and we need to pay homage to that. And to that, adding more voices in general. The expansion of the electorate in this country has demonstrated that we need more people to participate in our democracy. And we have in Oakley a form of government that puts a lot of power into the hands of the city manager and makes it such that the council looks to the city manager and often defers that power. That power should be in that legislature seeking information from the people. And I think we're too paternalistic in that regard, that the city council with the city manager often acts as though they're the adults with the wisdom and they know what to do and they're the experts, so we should just trust them. I see we need a planning commission to make sure that we get more voices in the direction this town wants to take. We need a library. The majority of the citizens voted to tax themselves for a library. 55% of Oakley residents voted to tax themselves on a library, and we still don't have one. And we can get the funding. The question that often council members and others in the community ask is, where are you going to get the money? Well, we can find the money. We can find it through the community college district. We can find it through creative financing. There's a number of ways we can do it. And if we do it, then we can have a project labor agreement on it, and we can get local union work building a quality building. We can have community college classes, which can bring other businesses to the area, is a big part of my agenda. And I really think that when I'm elected, and others who are running agree with me on this, this can be something that brings a lot of greatness to Oakley.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moats. Alexei Chuko, your final closing statement.
All right. I'm truly grateful for the opportunity to participate in today's forum. As a 19-year-old Ukrainian immigrant who landed in LAX some 14 years ago with just a backpack and a heart full of dreams, I've never even could fathom an idea that one day I will be running for city council. I will say, however, that in my travels across our beautiful country and learning about the communities, large and small, I saw a lot of successes, but I also saw so many challenges that we're facing as a nation. And it made me realize that I would like to give back to the wonderful place that became my home. Last December, I was delighted to finally take an oath as a naturalized citizen of the United States of America. And it opened doors for me to pursue 2 things that I wanted to do for a very long time: to vote and to run for a public office, because I believe that we need to be the change that we would like to see. When I think of Oakley, the first word that comes to my mind is opportunity. One thing certain for our region, and it is growth. But we have to set the right direction, keep it balanced, and make sure that we don't destroy what we love about Oakley in the first place. So we have to remember and honor our agricultural roots, support our local small businesses that created the foundation of our city, and foster the growth of new industries and startups. We have to bring proper living wage jobs to our region and save many of our residents from senseless hours and commute. We desperately need businesses that our community actually wants and deserves. Oakley residents are so much better than this endless row of storage units and gas stations. So with all this growth, it is critical for us to assure that safety for our residents is still a #1 priority. Allow me to be upfront, but our community is tired of these endless fireworks and the lack of enforcement for the last 5 months while we were experiencing these unprecedented fires all around our state. So we must have respect for one another, respect for our brave first responders, police officers, and firefighters, while none of our residents should feel profiled or threatened. Finally, we must restructure our city services and government to be more user-friendly and accessible, with main focus being on our residents' experience. It would be my highest honor to earn your vote on this election period and represent you and your family at the Oakley City Council. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Alexei Chuko. Clara, Laura, your closing statements.
Thank you. I do want to thank you for allowing me to be a part of this forum, and thank my fellow candidates also for their enthusiasm and their passion. And it's great to see that so many more people want to be involved and should be involved in our city as we grow. I've been in Oakley for nearly 20 years, and I've seen a lot of changes. And I know that many of our residents have seen even more than that, being that we have generations of families who've lived in the area. So as I made my way through, I've always wanted to balance the old with the new. And I wanted to make sure that Oakley is the city that everybody wants it to be, the city that everybody came here for, the city where everybody feels safe. So my #1 priority will always be public safety. And again, that means not only supporting our police department, but supporting our fire district and supporting our communities too. When neighbors come to, they will send emails or they'll come and complain about traffic issues or whatever, I really do take the time to listen and try to find solutions to what might work with them and what might work between neighbors. And so those are the things I want to continue to do for people to feel like they can talk to us and we're not just some sort of public figure that they're not accessible, they don't have access to, but somebody that's real and who really wants to know what's going on their street, who knows where they go, to go grocery shopping, who might see their kids on the corner and recognize them because our kids are in the same class. I want us to continue to feel that way, but also be able to be smart about growth and for us to bring in those companies and big living job companies that will be able to support our workforce, our children, so that they won't want to move away and go somewhere else, but that there's an opportunity for them to stay here in our community and to build homes next to their families and to continue the generations of living in Oakley. So I'd like to continue my work for another 4 years, and with your vote, I'll be able to do that. I thank you again all for the opportunity, and thank you candidates for your passion.
Thank you, Clara, Laura. Kevin Romick, your closing statements.
Yes, thank you for the opportunity to be involved in this process. I really appreciate it. And as has been stated before, thank all the candidates for their time and their opinions and their thoughts. We face challenging times as we emerge from the pandemic. Although our budget has remained relatively intact, the Oakley business community has been hard hit. We are adding local jobs to an area desperate for local employment. This will in turn keep more of our citizens local during the day, which will also help those Oakley businesses that depend on daytime business. We've begun addressing the needs of our seniors and veterans and enhanced our community with neighborhood beautification efforts, improving the quality of life in the city of Oakley. Our city has become a great place to live, work, and play, but there's much work yet to be done. Given the opportunity to continue serving on the city council, we'll continue hard to increase public safety and security. Maintaining our stature as one of the 50 safest cities in California is a priority. We'll work to improve local streets and enhance city services and attract and retain businesses in order to create employment and economic opportunities in our community that will benefit all of our residents and build a better future for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kevin Romick. Anissa Williams, your closing statements.
Awesome, thank you. I just want to thank everybody for this. to start, I had no political aspirations. This is not something that I ever thought that I would do. But one thing that I've done since I was a small child is when I see something that I think needs to be fixed, the first thing I want to do is go fix it. So I see the opportunity Oakley has. It's what attracted me here. We moved here 6 years ago, and I love our little community, but I don't love that we don't have all the places. As we've said, it's a great place to live, work, and play, but we can't work and we really don't play here. So I really want to make sure that we're providing those services for our families. And I think that unfortunately the city council does need a little shakeup. We need to have new, fresh faces, new, fresh ideas, and people who are committed to getting things done. Again, that is one of my strengths. It's one of the first things I've done when the pandemic first started. I started a group that was all about helping people, and we've now helped over 10,000 people get connected to resources and make sure that they have the things they need to get through this. And that's the type of energy and enthusiasm that I'm going to bring to the city council. We just need to have a different way of doing things, and people have had the opportunity to be on the council. And if we haven't seen some of these changes, if our citizens are still asking questions and having so many concerns about the status of Oakley and the direction it's going into, then we need fresh faces that are going to get things done and communicate the goals and the vision for Oakley instead of just having this aspiration of it. If we aren't achieving it, then it is just aspiration and just words. So we need to actually, as Conan said earlier, put the rubber to the road and get things done for our town.
Thank you very much. Again, this concludes our forum of candidates running for the Oakley City Council on November 3rd. Once again, our candidates are George Fuller, Conan Moats, Alexi Chuko, Claire Alora, Kevin Romick, and Anissa Williams. I should mention that another candidate, Aaron Meadows, is not present for this forum. So you will be choosing from 7 candidates running for 3 at-large seats for the City of Oakley City Council. For more information on these candidates, you can visit the website, votersedge.org. The Elections Division has set up multiple drop-off boxes for your ballots around the county. For one nearest you, you can visit www.cocovote.us, or you can call the elections office at 925-335-7800. And the deadline to register for this election is October 19th. And please don't forget to go out and vote on November 3rd. My name is Alan Wong. I was your moderator today. Thanks for watching.